But we've got a very serious question here that has been emailed in by David, I think it is. Can you pull that up, guys? I'll tell you what, I'm going to read this, and we'll both have to answer this one, Chris. My uncle died in what most of the family considers to be suspicious circumstances at his nursing home. I don't mean criminal, well, maybe criminal, but what I'm talking about is that safety conditions were not what they should have been, in our opinion. My aunt is not one to rock the boat about anything and would probably have to be dragged to talk to a lawyer about this. Can I or one of her kids take up my uncle's case for her, or does she need to be involved? David. David, first of all, I'm very sorry about your uncle and very sorry about the circumstances in which his passing has occurred. It sounds like you had some issues to start with, but Chris, let's talk about this for just a moment for this family.
David, absolutely hire an attorney. And if your aunt's having a little difficulty processing that and resistant to meeting with an attorney, by all means, the family can step in and try to get the process started, but eventually your aunt's going to have to be the one to make that decision. It's terrible what might have happened, and we hear just awful things sometimes coming out of nursing homes that some of them are true and some of them are not true either.
Right.
And so that's why we have to do the investigation. Now, Larry, one of your specialties is medical malpractice and nursing homes as well. So what would we be looking for in a situation like this to see if any type of malpractice occurred?
Well, David, like Chris said, your aunt ultimately needs to be involved, but sometimes to kind of get things kick-started, the children sometimes step in. And if the children can get together and come see an attorney, one of the things that you do, first of all, is, let me just kind of take you what would happen in our firm. You would meet with a paralegal to kind of start getting the information, and then there would be an immediate meeting with me. And the reason why we have the meeting with the intake paralegal to start with is to make sure that we clear conflicts of interest. Not that we typically have conflicts of interest in a nursing home setting, but sometimes we have to be very careful about that. And then, like I said, usually within a few days or so, there's a meeting with me, and we go through the intake information, kind of gather that information, and we listen carefully and try to get a good chronology of events, especially the things that you might consider. And so, for example, in nursing homes, in the state of Florida, state of Alabama, state of Georgia, there's something called statements of patients' rights. It's very similar to a medical malpractice case, but there are different claims that can be made in each of the situations. And typically what you're looking for are violations of those patients' rights. And ultimately what you're looking for is violations of those patients' rights that led to your uncle's untimely death. Sometimes even there may be a component to it that is a nursing malpractice or a medical malpractice in addition to it. So that's the reason why the attorney becomes involved very quickly. Once we get that information, we order the medical records. Once the medical records are ordered, we have them summarized, and also we send it out for review to the particular specialty. So for instance, if there was a cardiac issue that your uncle may have been rehabilitating from or supposed to be rehabilitating from in the nursing home, we would involve a cardiologist as an expert. If there was something that you complained about or had an issue with nursing care or staffing, for instance, when y'all would go visit the nursing home, your loved one, your uncle was, I hate to be personal, but in feces or the bed-soaked urine and things like, bed-soaked with urine and things like that, maybe a development of a bed sore or something along those lines, then we have to get different types of people involved, sometimes a nutritionist, sometimes a nurse, sometimes an administrator, all of these different components, different experts, and then we bring the family back in to say, yes, we have a case, or no, we do not have a case. And that investigation, by the way, is conducted by law firms, and it's free of charge to the family. We work on a contingency fee. And Chris, we spend sometimes, tens of thousands of dollars on cases, and we get involved in it, and we have to give the family the unfortunate news that it's not a case. It's a case where, it may look at it from the outside, but once you get involved with the medicine or get involved with the medical component of it, it does not meet the breaches in the standard of care or the breakdowns in the patient's rights. And you have to tell the family, I'm sorry, there's nothing that we can do to help you, but here's your file, get a second opinion.
A few things come to my mind, Larry. Poor bedside manner does not mean malpractice either.
Right.
And that's a little, over the years it's been something that it seems to be a reoccurring event. Something that's very hard for the family to accept, and I could understand that. But unfortunately, poor bedside manner takes place every day across our country. but that does not mean that there's malpractice that has occurred.
Or the doctor wouldn't talk with me, or the nurse
Right.
wouldn't talk with me. Now, there are times when they absolutely have to talk with you, but sometimes if nurses and doctors are talking with patients, they're not treating the patients.
Right.
So it is part of the practice, but the constraints that are upon doctors and nurses, it's very, very difficult. I'm not defending everything that's
right.
done, and neither are you, but sometimes that is probably the number one complaint. I don't know what happened to my uncle here, and it's because a nurse or a doctor has not sat down and talked with them. And usually it's, if they would sit down and talk with them and kind of explain things maybe as to what happened, you wouldn't even need to go see an attorney, but because you can't go in and talk with somebody, you can't have a sit down with the administrator, director of nursing, or somebody that was in charge of your uncle's care to kind of give you an idea of what's happened to your uncle. Now you're left with, well, something bad must have happened. That's why they don't call me, and that's why they don't talk to me.
Larry, something else that comes up, and we kind of hit on this earlier in the show, the speed and the time it takes. The speed of hiring an attorney is very important, obviously, to get the ball started. But the time it takes and the money that's invested in the preliminary aspects of a medical malpractice case or a nursing home case, we're not getting these medical records just because, just within 10 days. Sometimes it takes weeks and sometimes months to gather all these records. Additionally, finding the right expert to give us an opinion, if we have not handled this type of case in the past, we may have to hire a new expert. Right. Or maybe our old expert's not around anymore.
It's kind of like right now, I've got a case where I'm waiting on the FDA, the federal government. We sent a request in early December or late November, I forget which one it is now. They finally responded back a couple of weeks ago, we need you to clarify your request. I thought it was pretty clear.
Right.
But now they're clarifying the request, and we're waiting on that before our experts can give their opinions. Right,
and
because
those
it's a
opinions
testing.
take time too.
Well, it's a testing issue and a contamination issue or potential contamination issue, and our experts don't want to go out on a limb till they see what the FDA and the Department of Health had already found in the test. We can make speculation all day long, and then we get the test results, and they could be something completely different.
But you also hit on something else, a contingency fee.
Right.
And there's tens of thousands of dollars that we would spend on a case, really not knowing whether it's going to be a case or not at the end of the day. Now we hope that it's going to be a case, but the good thing about a contingency fee is we get paid when we resolve a case, when we either settlement or judgment or going through a trial. But if we don't win, we don't.
If we don't win,
the clients don't owe us anything.
Hopefully, you still hug my neck or make me some cookies or something. But recognize that when we go in, we leave it all on the field. There's nothing that's left behind. And that includes our checkbooks too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we spend the money like it's our money because it is our money. But we want to get our very best results for our clients, and certainly even in just the investigation phase of it, people want to know what happened to their loved ones, and that's what we do, David. Folks, we're going to